Hello and welcome to the morning sports briefing. Pakistan take 29 players to England. Tight games in the NRL. UFC record. Will different sports merge in New Zealand? And Crusaders come back from the break with a win. Yes, this is where you start the day the best way, up to date with all the sports, all the important sports news. It is Monday, the 22nd of June. Don't forget to like our Facebook page as we've been getting around grassroots sport and bringing you reports from those. Also, you can listen to us on the go by searching for New Zealand Sports Radio on your favourite podcast listener, be that iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Acast, or any of the others, really. And getting straight into it then, let's start off with our football update. And as we talk, over in the Belarusian Premier League, which we are sticking with because they stuck with sport during the lockdown. It is 0-0 between Shakhtar and Rugby Brest. Currently, they are 3 minutes into overtime. So it's going to take, it could be a late dramatic winner there. Also, overnight, Belashina lost to Bate at 0-2, and Verbetsk beat Minsk 1-0. So yes, that's all been going off over the weekend over there in the Belarusian Premier League. Arshavin will be happy because his team has climbed up to third in the table now, Dynamo Brest, where as unfortunately you can see that myself, Hugh and Stephen are also, our teams are all struggling now in the bottom half of the table. So, Stephen, I think we're looking at a bit of a turnaround from our teams, hopefully over the next few weeks, to climb back up that table as we near the halfway point of the season. Over in the English Premiership, and at half time, it is Everton, Liverpool are drawing 0-0. Newcastle beat Sheffield United 3-0, and Aston Villa lost away to Chelsea 1-2. Yes, so half time draw, I say, between Everton and Liverpool, new champions, aren't they? Over there. I'm going to hand you over to Arshavin now, who's going to take us through our cricket update.
Good morning, Paul, and good morning to all our listeners and viewers out there. And in cricket news, as Paul mentioned, Pakistan to take 29 players to England. Excuse me, I clear my throat. With England-West Indies series about to start, Pakistan will soon make their way to England to start their quarantine period. With the departure date of 28th of June, PCB has confirmed that an extended squad of 29 players will quarantine in Derbyshire for 14 days under their COVID restrictions. 29 players have been selected to allow for anybody falling ill and having to be isolated during that period, or during the game time as well. Pakistan have had no cricket since March the 17th, when the PSL T20 tournament was suspended due to COVID-19. So they'll be looking forward to getting into the UK, even though they'll be in their lockdown scenario. That will allow them to get some good sort of net sessions under their belt, and also watch a bit of the West Indies England series. Now, the COVID-19 scheduling logjam could most likely see the postponement of the 2021 Women's ODI World Cup. The competition scheduled for February to March could be shifted to allow for the rescheduling of the Men's T20 World Cup, which is very likely not going to go ahead as planned in October. It is believed that the ICC won't put up major events head-to-head, which would mean moving the Women's ODI World Cup. The women's teams, where possible, are still training and planning as though the tournament would proceed with its original date. The White Ferns are penciled into play the tournament opener on February the 6th. But a clearer picture will emerge after the next ICC board meeting, which in their last meeting they deferred the decision, which they've done for the previous meeting before that and before that and before that. They seemed averse to making a call on what they want to do. But hopefully at the next meeting we'll get a clearer picture of when all these tournaments will take place. And that, Paul, is our cricket news for today.
Thank you very much, Ashwin. I'm going to hand you over to Stephen, who'll take us through our birthdays today.
Thank you, Paul, and good morning to everybody for what is the start of a new week. In birthdays today, a New Zealand-born halfback, a Kiwi international who came back to the Warriors not once, but twice. And finally, a Kiwi Rugby League international who ended up in the Scottish rugby system, and that's where we start our birthdays this morning. Gary Mercer, born this day, the 22nd of June 1966, is a New Zealand Rugby League and Rugby Union coach and former professional rugby league footballer. A New Zealand international representative player, he spent most of his career in Britain, both playing and coaching. He is a former defence coach of Glasgow Warriors and a former coach at the Scottish Rugby Union, working in their Scottish Academy. As of March 2016, he was the head coach of Bigger RFC. Never heard of that club, maybe Paul has. Mercer, who celebrates his 54th birthday today, represented the Kiwis on 21 occasions between 87 and 93. Mercer, who has a son by the name of Zach, who plays for Bath in the Gallagher Premiership, also captained England under 20s back in 2017. Thomas Lilawai, born this day, the 22nd of June 1985, is a New Zealand professional rugby league footballer who plays as a scrum half, standoff or hooker for the Wigan Warriors in the Betfred Super League and has played for New Zealand at international level. Lilawai, who turns 35 today, played for the New Zealand Warriors in the NRL in two separate spells at the Auckland club, the London Broncos in the Super League, before moving to Wigan for the first of his two spells at the club. Lilawai was a member of the 2008 World Cup winning New Zealand team and has also played for the Exiles. And a man I know personally, finally, Tunu Eliatia, born this day, the 12th of June 1971 in Auckland, is a former New Zealand-born Samoan former rugby union player. He played as a scrum half. He played in two Rugby World Cups for Western Samoa in the 1990s. In 1991, he was part of the Samoan squad that memorably beat Wales 16-13 at Cardiff Arms in what is still one of the biggest upsets in international rugby. I think they got to rewrite Google, because I think that when Japan had over South Africa is the biggest upset. However, he did not play any match of the tournament in the 1995 World Cup quarterfinals. He scored a try at Ellis Park against the eventual winners, South Africa. His first match for Western Samoa was in the test match against Tonga at Moa on the 4th of June 1994. His last match for Samoa was against New Zealand at Napier on the 7th of June 1996. That's birthdays for today. I'll be back with all the league action from yesterday shortly, but yeah, biggest upset, Paul? Maybe not, eh? Maybe that South Africa-Japan game, I think, is superseded that game.
Yes, I think so. That Japan game has become the biggest. I recognise to be the biggest upset ever in World Cup rugby. But there you go, and we'll move on to rugby news now. And following on from the Blues win over the Chiefs, where they made history by winning 5 games on the trot, or 5 away games on the trot for the first time ever in their 25-year history. The Chiefs followed up that and showed that they are going to be serious contenders for the Aotearoa Super Rugby title by beating the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes pulled it back to be a draw, or even at about 43 minutes. It's not 43 minutes, sorry. Back at 62 minutes, but the Crusaders were clinical, as we know they can be, and they put the game away with 2 tries in that last 20 minutes. They started very well with a try straight at the beginning of the game, and it looked like it was going to be a much more comfortable win for them on the scoreboard. But I say, in the end, the Hurricanes managed to pull it back before Crusaders went on to win. That means that both the Hurricanes and the Chiefs now have lost both their opening games, and question marks as to how they're going to turn that around in such a short season. Do join us this evening at 8 p.m. where we'll be talking for the Driving Mall show. Where we talk about all the hot topics in rugby. And if you want to get full breakdown of those games from yesterday, then check out the Super Rugby Etera Round 2 review that we recorded last night. You can also listen to that as a podcast. Just search for New Zealand Sports Radio on your favourite pod catcher. I'm going to hand you back to Stephen now, who's going to take us through our NRL update.
Yeah, thanks again, Paul. We're all catching our breath after the events of the weekend. And thanks for popping up that table. So I'll give you an opportunity to have a digest how the table is looking at this time. But there were 2 games in the NRL yesterday, starting with the Manly-Canberra game. Tom Trbojevic troublesome hamstring has let him down again with the Daily M medal leader limping from the field, and Manly's gutsy 14-6 NRL win over Canberra. Trbojevic and Dylan Walker were 2 of the 3 Sea Eagles injured in the win as the fullback limped from the Campbelltown Stadium on Sunday, or that's yesterday on the 52nd minute. I'm just going to move forward a little bit. So it looks like the fullback could be out for about 6 weeks or so. So it's a huge blow. His injury headlined a hard afternoon for Manly on the injury front, with Trbojevic having a hand in both Sea Eagles' tries in the first half before going off. It came, though, in one of the gutsiest wins in Manly's history after they had just 2 on the bench from the 4th minute. Yes, they lost a couple of players very early. They're already without Martin Tapo and also Moses Suli and George Tofoa before the match. So they lost Walker and Brad Parker to injuries in the early stages. Both of those injuries could result in these players being on the sideline for a while. Lachlan Croker also played on and impressed after a head clash, making a tackle on his own line from the next play with blood spurting from his eye socket. I don't think we'll get too much into that. After leading 12-0 at the break, they still had to fight off the Raiders in the second half with 2 second rowers defending in the centres to finish one of those. Curtis Sirenin pulled off arguably the most important player of the game, putting Jordan Rapana into touch, and that was a very good tackle. I saw that myself. Just did enough to put his leg over the touchline. Elliot Whitehead scored Canberra's first try in the 50th minute from some smart hands from Whiten, and the Raiders, who also had their chances throughout the game as well. So that final score again, if you look at the try scores, Funa Trbojevic with the tries, Garrick 3 goals to Canberra, who scored the Whitehead try, Croker goal, so 14-6 that final score. And in the final game played yesterday, in round 16, Pay's chances of securing an extension at Canterbury have been dealt another blow, with the Bulldogs falling short 20-18 to Cronulla at Bankstown Stadium. Sharks winger Sione Katoa claimed his first career hat-trick, while Matt Moreland also came through unscathed to breathe life into the Sharks' NRL campaign. Halves Sean Johnson and Chad Townsend also had 2 try assists each in yesterday's game. So that final score again in that game, it's the Sharks 20 beating the Bulldogs 18, or was it the other way around? Canterbury have been dealt. Yes, it's Sharks 20, Bulldogs 18. I do apologise for that. As we have a quick look at the table, even after the loss for the Eels on the weekend, they still lead the table. And it's still pretty even Stevens at this stage, and even down to the Warriors, despite all the issues they've had. Just the 2 wins sitting in 13th place. That's all our leg for today, Paul, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you very much, Stephen, for bringing us up to date with all the NRL news. Moving now on to netball. Oops, wrong one. There we go. Moving on to netball, and the defending champions, the Central Pulse, had a dominant victory over the Northern Stars, 63-39. Yes, a big win there for them. It was even in the second quarter, but then they pulled away with turnovers, or forcing turnovers from the Stars to give them that lead. As you can see, that means now that the Central Pulse and the Northern Mystics are top of the table, both with 2 wins. The Pulse ahead on percentage points. And then the Magic and the Mainland Tactics have got 1 win and a loss. The Northern Stars and the Southern Steel both looking for their first win. But the Stars have picked up a bonus point by finishing in having a close loss in their first game. Coming up to night, we have the one more game of round 2, and this time it's the Stars have to go. Will be backing up against the Mainland Tactics. Mainland Tactics, who picked up that win over the Southern Steel, 36-43 last on Saturday. The Stars having to play back-to-back games. So, how will fatigue be played? Which part will that play for them? Currently, all the games up in Auckland at the Netball Centre there at St John's. And remember, you can buy tickets. So do check out, if you want to get along to that game that starts at 7 p.m. this evening, you can get your tickets. Check out the anzpremiership.co.nz website for that. Moving on to the UFC, and we had a record over the weekend when Curtis Biles beat Alexander Volkov by a unanimous points victory, improving his record to 14-2. But the really big piece was the number of takedowns that he had in the fight, 14 in all, with the first coming in less than 10 seconds of the fight. This beat the previous record of 11 takedowns held by Cain Velasquez, who recorded that back in 2012. So yes, a lot of takedowns in that fight, and yes, he wanted to say a points decision there. Over in the tennis, and Djokovic has started well on the second round of the Adriana Tour. This is an event that he has put together to help players get back into being match fit ahead of tennis resuming. So good to see that he's been proactive in getting that event going, and clearly he's starting pretty well after winning the first event last weekend. Over on sort of the sports structures, and Sports New Zealand is discussing with the professional franchises across numerous sports as to how they will be sustainable in the future. They're making it clear that whilst the money handout was to get teams through to the 1st of July, they're not going to be backing unsustainable professional sport in the future. One of the options that is being mooted is that teams in the same location across different sports merge, because on ticketing, marketing, gym facilities, these are all potentially areas where teams can share these or find cost savings by merging. The Phoenix tried to do this down in Wellington with the Hurricanes, but never could actually get a majority share in the Hurricanes. New Zealand Rugby maintains that. So they decided to take a different route. But maybe now, with the franchises coming up for renewal at the end of the year, there will be a change in that. Obviously, it's not just football and rugby they're looking at, but also netball. And then there's also cricket as well, so and basketball. So potentially there's space for that. Over in Europe, this is something that is quite common. FC Barcelona, for example, also has a professional basketball team as well. So maybe that is the future for sport here in New Zealand, having mega franchises. We'll have to see how those discussions progress. New Zealand rugby boss Steve Chu is leading a industry-wide consultation on the challenges facing professional sport. We'll see what recommendations he comes up with for sports in New Zealand. You have started the day the best way, up to date with the latest, or slightly important sports news. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Happy Monday. Don't forget to join us this evening at 8 p.m. for the Driving Maul Show, where we'll talk about all the hot topics in rugby.